everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Beatrice.
Hey, Regina.
Hey, Dominique.
Hey
Hi,
there.
Tommy.
Sorry,
Hi, Gina. Thank you.
guys, I'm having trouble connecting.
Okay, we can't see you, Beatrice, but we can hear you a little bit. You were going in and out a bit, so can you hear us though, Beatrice? I don't think she can hear us. Okay, in case you can hear us and we just can't hear you, Beatrice, just keep on trying and let us know if you have any issues or yes. Can you hear me? We heard you for like 2 seconds. If need be, you can always call in and then we'll be able to we'll hear you then. Okay? All right, with that, I'm gonna go ahead and just mute everyone just to make sure we don't have any feedback. And I will turn the meeting back to you, Chair Nair Strickland.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll open the meeting of HRC for March. And first order of business is roll call.
All right, so I will start the roll call attendance. Commissioner White?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Amberman, can you hear us yet? Okay, because she's still having connection issues. Okay. Commissioner Heseltine?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Callett?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
I'm present.
Thank you. Vice Chair Jenkott?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Burnsworth?
I am present.
Thank you. Commissioner Rivera?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Stevens?
I'm here.
Thank you. Commissioner Ellis? Thank you. Commissioner Taylor?
Present.
Thank you. Chair Nair Strickland?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Stanley?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Cubine?
Here.
Thank you. And Commissioner Zoberman?
Yes.
Thank you. And I heard someone pop in just now. I want to make sure it's not, I didn't miss anyone. Okay. With that, roll call is complete.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to make a change to the, or an addition to the agenda. And right after our minutes, I'd like to have a discussion about the IRP, just a brief discussion because of the news reports that we have been getting. So are there any other additions or corrections to the agenda for today?
Anyone, raise your hand if you have something to add.
If not,
Okay, I don't see any virtual hands.
oh, that's all right, and we can always change. So the minutes you had ahead of time, anybody, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Please raise your virtual hand if you'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the February 11th meeting. Okay, I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Heseltine. Commissioner Heseltine, your mic is open.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as read.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Heseltine. And I see a virtual hand up by Vice Chair Jenkott. Vice Chair Jenkott, would you like to second that motion?
Second that motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Jenkott. Okay, any discussion or opposition to the motion on the table to approve the HRC minutes from the February 11th meeting? Rabbi Zoberman, any discussion or opposition?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I don't see any virtual. Oh, I see a virtual hand up by Commissioner Burnsworth. Commissioner Burnsworth, your mic is open.
That was an accident.
Okay, that's okay then. All righty. In that case, I don't see any virtual hands up. So I'm going to do a roll call vote for approval of the minutes from the February 11th Human Rights Commission meeting. Commissioner White?
Approved.
Thank you. Commissioner Amberman, are you with us now? Can you hear me? Commissioner Amberman?
Yes,
Okay, we are doing a vote for approval of the minutes from the February 11th meeting. Yeah, we're not hearing you, Commissioner Amberman.
I approve.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Amberman. Commissioner Heseltine?
Approved.
Thank you. Commissioner Khaled?
Approved.
I vote yes.
We got your vote, Commissioner Amberman. Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Chair Jessica?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Gunn?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Burnsworth?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Rivera?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Ellis? Thank you. And Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you. Chair Neer Strickland?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Cubine?
Yes.
Thank you. And Commissioner Zoberman?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, with that. The minutes were approved by a vote of 16-0.
Okay. Thank you. Wanted to welcome Rod Ingram and Rick Norris. Thank you for joining us, liaisons. We appreciate that.
All right, thank you for having us. I appreciate it.
I guess I talked to most of you about the news. Well, Councilman Moss put on Facebook an announcement about what happened during the retreat, and I forgot which channel picked it up, but I just wanted to say that I had reached out to a couple of council people. I did hear back from Michael Bellucci, who apologizes he can't be here tonight because of work, but what was on the news is not actually what happened, because everything is still undecided. There's going to be public input, and it hasn't gone to vote yet. So I know that several of you probably want to say a few things about it, though. I just wanted to open it up, and thank you, Regina and Stacy, for being here. If you could answer questions if the commissioners have any questions for you. Does anybody want to say anything or ask a question about it, or have you seen the news or talk to me?
Okay, I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Heseltine. Commissioner Heseltine, your mic is open.
Of course, I have my little hand up. So I think it would be helpful if we had, and I really appreciate Regina being here today, if we actually could just have, as of today, 3/11, what is the status? Where are we on an IRP citizens review panel as of right now? I mean, I understand that the voting and everything, but where are we? What's the status of it?
Okay, and that question was for Regina?
Yes.
Okay. Regina, your mic is open.
Okay. Well, hi, everyone. The IRP has been functioning as normal. There are some changes that were made to the IRP based on some things that the city manager wanted to put into place. And so, for example, the HRC had a recommendation that said all complaints should be heard, right? And that was something that was common. The IRP wanted that. The African American Roundtable wanted that. HRC wanted that. So that is a change that the city manager put into place. So now when a citizen asks for a review of their the outcome of their investigation, the IRP no longer has a meeting to determine whether or not it really is serious misconduct or abuse of authority. It's just automatically heard. And that is something in keeping with what you all had recommended. They now can review a case, a citizen complaint, even if the citizen did not ask for that review. They would reach out to the citizen to say, this is a case that we want to review, and hopefully be able to proceed from there. That is a new change that the city manager made, because there may be something that, there's outcry in the public, for example, but the citizen did not actually ask to have their case reviewed. IRP now can take that on. Another change is that if the police chief wants the IRP to review a case that was not requested by a citizen, but the police chief wants to make sure that there are another set of eyes on an investigation, or if they want a review of a policy that they have, they now can ask the IRP to look into that. And then there is another change that says, if the IRP makes a recommendation to the police department, that the police department has to respond within 30 working days. And that response is public. So the city manager has made those changes. And those were things that were within his authority and did not have to be approved by city council. So just recently, what we were looking at is whether or not some of the General Assembly changes would go into effect. So, for example, General Assembly had some language that would permit a citizen review board to actually conduct their own investigation. So police wouldn't be conducting the investigation. The citizen review board could go ahead and conduct the investigation. And they could subpoena witnesses if that authority was given. So city council so far is not leaning towards that. They are saying that is not what they want the IRP to do. They want the police department to continue to conduct the investigations, and they want the IRP to continue to have the opportunity to review those recommendations for thoroughness and fairness. This also was in line with what the HRC had put forth in their final recommendations. You all had said that you recommended that the investigation stay with police and that the IRP continue to review. So that is where City Council is headed. There was another item that the General Assembly would allow citizen review panels to do, and that is to decide on the discipline that would be given to police personnel. So if the City Council chose to set it up this way, the IRP could actually say, based on our review of this information, this officer should receive this discipline, okay? Or this staff member of the police department should receive this. And council is not leaning towards that at all. So those were the items that they tackled at the City Council retreat on Tuesday. So with the way that they seem to be going with the changes, it really would not have an impact on the current functioning of the IRP. So the changes are really associated with the changes that the city manager has put into place. What remains, though, is that the legislation does say that if you're going to have a citizen review board, which you don't have to have, but if you're going to have one, then that board must be representative of the community. So the demographics of the board need to represent the community. So we will need to do some work on that to figure out what we would need to do to make sure that that occurs, that the demographics of that board is representative of our community. So that is outstanding. All right, so does that answer? I think that's
Okay,
about all.
I have one follow-up. I'm sorry. I have one follow-up, and we'll hand down. So that, and it pertains to your last sentence. So as of right now, the IRP is going to remain the same group of people that are currently serving, and it's not going to be expanded, or there's not a plan to expand it in the near term. And I think one of the and be more representative of different constituencies within the city.
So we don't know at this point how it's going to occur. We know that we have to look at the makeup to see if it's representative. If we've determined that it is not representative, we have to make some changes. So it is not the intent that it will be disbanded. The IRP will continue, but it may, right now, the panel can have 5 members, 2 alternates. It may be that, now it is just 7 members and they have to be diverse. It may be that 7 is not enough to get us diversity and we have to go to 9. I don't know yet. That part of it is still being worked through.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Regina, for being here today and for your time and explaining for us. Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you, Commissioner Hasseltine. Before I go to the commissioners who have their virtual hands up, I just want to take a moment to recognize that Captain Wichenthal has joined the meeting. And Rod, I see you're waving your hand, so I'll let you take the mic.
I just wanted to add to what Regina said. Carla's question, part of it was not going to change it anytime soon. Council will have to determine whether the current composition reflects the demographic diversity of our community before July 1, because by July 1, that's our date, the panel must be composed in such a way as to represent the demographic diversity of the community. That phrase, demographic diversity, it may mean certain things to some of us, but that term is not defined. So I believe Regina is going to have her staff work to find demographics about the city, and not just race and ethnicity, but also things like gender and perhaps age and other things. And then with that data, we can do an analysis of our current membership and see if there's a need to add some more in order to get that diversity that's going to be required as of July 1.
And not to belabor that, but so for example, we have no idea about the economic makeup of the current board. So it may be that that is a criterion we want to look at. We don't know if they are representative of all parts of the city. So, those are some things that we may, need to take into account, but we aren't there yet. We have some homework to do before we get there.
Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Regina. I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Stanley. Commissioner Stanley, your mic is open.
Thank you. Thanks, Regina, for the clarity.
Sure.
I want to begin by stating that I've been getting a lot of phone calls. So, and I want to also make sure that I get some clarity about some of the things that you said. First of all, when you said that the HRC had weighed in as a body on, our recommendations, what I understood happened was that different bodies weighed in with just suggestions. There was no vote, there was no education, there was no official taking up of the issue so that we could even make a recommendation as a body. So I want to make sure, and the reason I'm going back and making sure that that's clear is because I asked the question when it was all coming up, and because we have been in relationship with the community based on forums that we did where way back when, 7 years ago, the problems of community police relationships wanting to improve and us being in partnership together to create a table that we are in relationship with, even though it's not our table. So when we weighed in, many of us, or some of us I know, at least stated that investigation, perhaps subpoena power, were things that we did think were possible remedy to improve partnerships, relationships, trust building, and transparency in the community. So I want to make sure to go on record, stating that for the commission, even though it was suggestions, and some of the suggestions and recommendations, some of us did recommend that, others of us didn't. And so I want to make sure the other body that did weigh in heavily on this is that Pastor Community, Western Bayside Community Police Relations Table, that has been at the constructive, productive work of change for more than 6 years now, and they were not listed as one of the bodies that gave input, and they did. So I want to make sure that they go in that, just making sure that we're understood that they have been giving opinions as they've been walking through and experiencing it in communities, so that they have a lot of experience around what a good relationship with police to be. If the IRP is really about building trust, transparency, and good relationships, which is what we want, then their input at least be valued as far as them giving it. So if I could get some clarity, Regina, on, you said if the IRP makes a recommendation, as you said, if the police wants a case reviewed, the police chief, that they can initiate. If the IRP makes a recommendation, to who does the recommendation go back to? They have to get a response within 30 days.
So the recommendation from if the IRP makes recommendation, they're making a recommendation about the police department. It goes to police, and the city manager is aware. The response has to also go back to the IRP, and the city manager is aware. So,
but who is responsible for responding within 30 days? That's all. I just want the police department. Okay. And so if I'm understanding right, then the only, and no police discipline can be recommended by the IRP. So, right, because the council is going away from that direction, which
the question was whether or not the IRP would be responsible for making binding disciplinary decisions for police, and that was what council wanted to make sure it did not happen.
Okay, binding. They can make recommendations, but the police don't have to take it, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
They could. Historically, the IRP has not dealt with discipline at all. That has not been part of their charge. Their charge is to review the investigation for thoroughness and fairness. They do not deal with discipline. So if this would have been something that they would start addressing, would be the discipline, and they are not.
And so the current procedure of the internal affairs doing the investigation, its own internal investigation on the police, being the current, that's the current way the system works. That's where the council is suggesting that they're heading. Though this isn't a binding vote, they just have said that they don't want to go into any investigation opportunity outside of the police's own internal investigation.
Correct.
They've weighed in as a unanimous body on that.
They, at least as a majority, they have decided that they do not want the IRP to conduct the investigations.
Okay, or any outside other than the police, other than the internal affairs. So like, for instance, there had been conversation about it being maybe underneath the city manager's office, where then there could possibly be use of city attorneys that are separate from the police, but a separate body other than the police.
So there was never discussion about the city attorney's office conducting the investigation. The discussion was whether or not, so the discussion was whether or not the police department would continue to do the investigations, whether or not the IRP would conduct the investigations. The discussion about the city manager's office was a couple of things. One was, could they be part of the intake? So if a citizen wanted to issue a complaint about the police department, right, previously they went to the police department. There was a discussion about whether or not they could start their complaint with someone in the city manager's office. That has been put into place. So even right now, even if there is a complaint about anything in the city, your water, the drainage ditch or whatever, city manager's office does have a person that basically takes in complaints. So added to that responsibility is police complaints, and they will take the complaint and make sure that it gets to the police department. There was never a discussion about whether or not the city manager's office would actually conduct the investigation, nor whether the city attorney's office would conduct the investigation.
And once again, Regina, I know it wasn't like any full conversation, but there were just a little, trying not to make it budget neutral. There were some possible compromises that might be considered. And so I'm just trying to understand because the community, the police department is such a good police department in Virginia Beach. There has been relationships around people being invested in trying to work together for these solutions. And the way this ended up being walked out has been, I think, really damaging to that, understanding. There's just a sense of confusion around how were we stakeholders, and then all of a sudden these decisions look like they're being made where no stakeholders have been able to step in and explore together what would be the best way to go forward. So I talk too much, but I've been very invested for the last 7 years, and this is a human rights issue. So I just want to make sure that I'm conveying as much as I can to this body, because I've really been invested in the work. Thanks.
Sure, and just for clarification, what the information that we provided to council about the groups that gave us information is just that. If I had the information from the HRC, I had the information from the African American Roundtable, I had the information from the IRP. So if there were other groups that provided city council information, I did not have that. So they would have had that, but not necessarily me. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, you're.
I am. Thank you. If I could just add two things. One, in addition to the briefings that Regina has given to council, and I believe we gave you a link to one of those at a prior meeting. Also at the February 16 meeting, the Mayor's African American Roundtable spoke on police civilian oversight, Dr. Veronica Coleman. And finally, and I know Teresa is well aware of this, and most of you are, but just for the rest of the group, in the most serious instances of alleged police misconduct, where there is injury to a person, or God forbid, there's a use of force and a loss of life, it's not just police investigating their own. No, the first investigation that's going to happen is the Commonwealth's attorney. They are going to do a criminal investigation to determine whether the police officer violated criminal law in those interactions. So it's not always just IA. Sometimes there is the independent investigation by the Commonwealth's attorney on the most serious matters.
Okay, thank you, Rod. Thank you, Regina. Commissioner Stanley, I see your virtual hand is still up. Did you have more to say? Okay, thank you, Commissioner Stanley. Okay, I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Gunn. Commissioner Gunn, your mic is open.
Yes, just had a question, a couple of questions maybe actually. First of all, I just wanted to clarify the law passed by the General Assembly giving investigative and subpoena power to different jurisdictions. Are you saying, Regina, are you saying that would remove that power away from the Virginia Beach Police Department and exclusively give it to IRP, or would both have that ability?
So the legislation was permissive. So basically the legislation said, okay, if you want to have a citizen review board, which you don't have to have, but if you want to have one, here are some options. Here are some things that you can have them do. One of the things that they said you can have them do is to actually investigate the incidents, okay? And where city council is headed is that they did not want that citizen body to take on the responsibility for conducting those investigations. So it wasn't, it was something that council could have said, yes, we want to add to that responsibility of the IRP, but they did not.
Okay. I mean, and additionally, I'm not sure if this is a question, it's more of a response or a comment, but Teresa mentioned that she's finding some confusion in the release of that statement. And to be perfectly honest with you, I wouldn't say it's less confusion, more, I guess, a feeling of betrayal that I would imagine some are feeling. Because the purpose of an investigative review panel is to build trust within the community for the Virginia Beach Police Department. If they don't have that ability, then to me, in my opinion, it kind of undercuts their entire point of being if they don't have that ability. Like, why have an investigative review panel if they're not allowed to investigate? That's the very item that's giving the community, that's giving them the ability to trust the police, to be able to build that kind of trust, is to have that power. So, and just the way, I mean, I know the chair had said the news reporting may have been inaccurate, but at the same time, it kind of colors the entire debate when that information is said beforehand, that there is going to be, I mean, if there is a vote, that we already know how the vote is going to be or how they're feeling already about those responsibilities, giving subpoena power, investigative power to investigative review panel. So like, again, it undercuts to me, it's just undercutting the ability of the community to trust the police. And this just gives more ammunition to those who don't have that trust with the police. I mean, it almost, like I said, just almost seems like a self-defeating purpose if they're releasing that statement, if they're saying that, if that's where they want to go.
So I think they had to make a decision as to what parts of the General Assembly legislation they wanted to enforce or enact. So I don't. There had been some discussion among the council members at prior meetings, at prior city council meetings. And so it wasn't like their first discussion on it. And I think they wanted to have the time to discuss this at their retreat, which they did. And, it was their decision as to how they wanted to go. And that was how it came out. I don't know, really where else to go with that, except that they did not think it was appropriate or in the best interest of our city to have that body, citizen body, conducting the investigations.
I understand, but I mean, I did see one councilman did say that they're going to hear from the people in the city who disagree with that decision, and I agree with her that they're going to. I mean, the city is going to let them know how they feel about that decision. I mean, it's
Understand.
kind of what they're asking for.
Understand.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Gunn. Did you have more to add? See your virtual hand is still up.
I do not. I'm putting it down.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Amberman, I see your real hand is up, but I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Taylor. So Commissioner Taylor, your mic is open.
How's everyone doing this evening? On this matter of this, I've had multiple discussions with city council members about this, and we have made significant changes. This changes that Regina that you talked about is very what we're saying is we moving in the right direction. But I think if we look at the statistics, we got very few complaints for the police department, but the ones that we do receive is deal with. Let's be honest, it's dealing with people of color, and so the people of color is outcrying that they have to have confidence in our police department and the city council and everyone that everything would be looked at fairly and equitably. And since the bill came out, they feel that if you give the board the investigative power, but limit it to all cases that comes to them. They only investigate the cases come to them. The internal affairs go ahead and do their investigation. But when it comes over, when that complaint also comes to the IRP, then the IRP can look at what the internal affairs did and then weigh in on it properly. And that's why that's why I said we can maybe get a real investigator assigned to them PRN. And then because like I may ask if I have a background in investigation where somebody on the panel doesn't have that background. I may see, no, we need this right here because something is missing out of there. But the makeup of our count of that board doesn't know that. Only thing they can go by is what the city, not the city, but what the internal affairs give them. If that's the only they're gonna give them, then it may be something else that the board needs. If they have an investigator that's experienced in these matters to say, we need this right here too, to see if this right here happened. Say, for example, the incident that happened in Lynn Haven Mall, that gentleman was detained. But do anyone know, do you have to inform a person if they are detained, what they're being detained? If that panel doesn't know that, then is that person's rights being violated? But if that officer didn't put it in the statement, then an experienced investigator say, well, he had to be warned why he was being detained. And if that person doesn't say it and say, well, I told him at this point, and the panel may look at it, okay, he was warned, but he wasn't warned in ample enough time, if the policy so say that. So those are the type of things that I think the African American community is looking at. So if you don't have that type of experience on there, you're gonna look at it. We read the reports, look at the stuff, and say, okay, everything hunky-dory, but it may be not that way. And then what happens then is the citizens are uproared. Something has happened. Everybody, we don't have a legitimate RP really looking at this thing the right way. Then next thing you know, you have protesting, you have marching, you have outside entities coming in, protesting down at the ocean front, disrupting our economy, everything. Because we didn't do our due diligence. You don't have to give them subpoena power. Because one of the city councils said that maybe Rod can correct this. One of our city council members that called me said, well, the reason I voted that way because the city attorney said if we give them investigative power, it has to come with subpoena power. And I'm looking right here at the bill. It doesn't say that. It said it may have subpoena power. You don't have to give it to them. That's not what that bill said. That's my interpretation. I didn't go to law school, but I can read and interpret because I do have a background in criminal law. So that doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. It says it may have subpoena power. So you can give investigative, but not subpoena. Now, unless Rod can expound on that and tell me I'm wrong, well, that's not what the bill is saying to me. I've got the last version of the bill, and I read it. Because once the city council told me that, I had to go back and read it. I said, I didn't remember reading that. And it's not there. And I'm searching it, trying to find it. It doesn't say, well, if you give them investigator, you got to give them subpoena power. It does not say that. It says that you can, if they may go there. And then, and then one of the recommendations that the roundtable made was that you can let them, if you want subpoena, let it lie with this city manager. Or not, if someone's not, the other thing is, if someone is not cooperating with the IRP panel, then let that executive director go to the city manager, and the city manager and the police chief discuss this And then if they can't give their IRP what they want, then they move on to the city council and ask the city council to compel the agency, the organ, the division to cooperate. And I don't know, I know the city is not leaning that way, but one of the things they was trying to is protect the police department. That's the common thread that I'm hearing from the city council. We want to protect our city police department. We are losing officers. If we give someone an investigative subpoena power, they're gonna flee the nest. Why would they flee the nest? I'm an investigator. I'm a former investigator. And one of the things my chief told me, welcome to investigation. If you did everything right, it's gonna clear you. But if you doing something that's not right, you got something to worry about. And so this is an opportunity to build trust in our community. And one of the things the African American Roundtable told the city council and the police chief, if an incident goes down and it looked like it's about to spiral, we will stand with the city council and the police chief and tell everybody, calm down. We got an effective oversight panel. Let it work through the process. But the way it's written right now, and if we move forward like this, I don't believe they're going to stand with the city council. Anyway, they're going to blast them and add fuel to the fire. That's what I see. That's my perspective. But the common thread from talking with various city council members that voted against it was to protect our police department. And I want the police department to be protected. Also, I think the citizens have to have their jobs to do also. So, like Jamal said, I guess they'll continue to negotiate, and then ask the city council to reconsider, and look at the ways we can come to the middle, so the community can have that trust and build that relationship with our city, with our police department. We got to find somewhere. We can't be said, nope, we ain't doing that. We protecting our police department. Like I told the mayor, we just waiting. We sitting on a keg of dynamite waiting for someone to strike the match. And when they strike it, I believe we're gonna blow ourselves up. We're gonna look like one of them other cities that had incidents. But here we are at a defining moment to be able to make good changes and get this thing done where everybody's not gonna get everything they want. That's naivete. But we can work together where the citizens feel comfortable, the police department feel comfortable. And then we need to see what the police chief feel about it. Have anybody asked the police chief? Those are my input. But I know that I need some clarity, because a lot of city council said, well, the city attorney said that they need it. If we're giving investigators, they got to have subpoena. And I don't see that written in that bill.
Okay.
And I'm sorry for talking so much.
That's all right. We've been talking a lot, Ron.
Yeah, no.
Thank you. And Regina, these aren't all directed at you. They're just, I think people are just expressing feelings. We just really appreciate you being here. We've spent about 45 minutes on this so far. Does anybody else have any comments?
Hey,
oh, sorry, that's right.
Can Rod answer that question?
Yeah.
Which question?
Okay.
About that bill.
So before I get started, this bill could have been written a lot more clearly.
Yeah.
You see Regina smiling because Regina heard my boss and me debating this very issue just a few days ago. Let me tell you how we came at it. And this is based on statutory construction, not common sense, not what makes sense, but statutory construction, how a judge would interpret the law in the way that it's been written. And I've already told you, if I was writing it, I would have written it a different way.
Right.
All right. The first page of the bill has a section, B, that says a locality may establish a citizen review board. And we have one, and council has chosen not to disband it, but rather to keep it. All right, now that you have one, a law enforcement civilian oversight body may have the following duties. So they may have them. They may have them if the city council says, okay, that's one of your duties. And then there's a laundry list, a numbered list, 1 through 8 of different things. Then you go to a totally different section, not the section I was talking about. You go down to another section, subsection D.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
The city council shall establish policies, and it says the law enforcement civilian oversight body may hold hearings, and if it's necessary to perform their duties and they're unable to obtain attendance or production of documents, it may apply to the circuit court for the locality for a subpoena compelling attendance or the evidence. I understand this sounds like a very fine distinction, but on the previous page, it says the city council may have, that civilian review boards may have some or all of the following, and the city council chooses which ones. But then when we go to this separate section D, it says the board may hold hearings. The board may seek subpoenas. And the way we've read these together, you have to read the two sections together. You have to presume that the drafters intentionally put the stuff in D separate from D. They intentionally did not put it in B where we had the laundry list. The interpretation of my office is if the city council had selected from the laundry list of options under C, if they had selected the one where our investigation review board, instead of reviewing the investigations of IA, instead they would be launching their own investigation parallel to the investigation being done by IA, parallel to the one being done by the Commonwealth's attorney in certain circumstances. If the council had elected to give the IRP the power to have those independent investigations, well, then you go to D. Since they have that power, they may hold the hearings. They may seek the subpoena. And I understand that sounds like a tortured reading, but it's not a analysis that we came to lightly. It was parsing every word, spending lots of time and brain cells with multiple attorneys, trying to figure out how to accurately analyze this somewhat poorly written bill that was the product of a compromise between the House and the Senate. Yeah. And sometimes when you've got multiple cooks in different kitchens and then they're all putting it together, it doesn't come out quite as well as we would hope. My hope is maybe the legislature next year will clean some of this up. And I also think, as Regina implied, we have the direction from our current council, but this law is on the books. Come July 1, this law is on the books. So if God forbid something happens that in the future that causes our council to reconsider, maybe in light of this, we should make a change. Or maybe they'll say, maybe in light of what we've experienced, we don't need to make a change. The point I'm making is that the decision that's made before July 1 is not necessarily the final decision forever. We take our direction from the council and we'll do what a majority of our council tells us to do. And sometimes they change their minds and sometimes they change composition. The composition of council changes after a November election. So what Regina is telling you is an accurate recap of the discussion by this council a few days ago, and we're going to see what the future holds.
Okay, but what you're saying is that both of them comes together. Let me.
Yeah, what I'm saying is if the city council or a board of supervisors in another locality chooses from that list under C to grant their board not just the ability to review IA investigations, but to launch their own independent investigations, if they give them that power, then they would automatically have the powers in D, which are to hold the hearings, and if you can't get the people or the documents, subpoena them.
So they have to have it.
Yeah, if the governing body says y'all have the ability to do independent investigations, then that body will, as of right, under Section D, have the ability to conduct hearings and to call witnesses. But if the governing body does not give them the ability to launch their own independent investigations, then the powers tied to independent investigations found in D would not apply. Could I get some nods if people are understanding or not?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but
Okay.
I'm looking at it too, and where it said it may have subpoena power. That's what I'm reading. It said may. It didn't say it has to come with it. It said it may have. So if the council don't want to give it to them, they don't have to. They can still give them investigative. Maybe you the legal beagle, not me. I'm just saying it because I'm telling you what they're telling the citizens, and I understand what you're saying, but I don't know. Well, you know, that's further discussion, and I like, you know, and I'll talk to you on another time, not to hold this meeting up, to get some more clarity. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I was going to say thank you, Commissioner Taylor, and thank you, Rod. I just want to take a moment. I have some hands up. It's just your real hand up, and then Teresa, I see your virtual hand. But I want to take a moment to identify a new caller on the meeting. I believe this might be Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Anderson, is this you?
Yes, this is me. Hi, everyone.
Okay. Hi. I thought to welcome.
Thank you.
I'm sure you've heard most of this conversation. If you have any comments to make or discussion, I'm going to come back around to you, but I just want to get to Commissioner Amberwin quickly because she has her hand up. So hold tight if you do have.
But no, I don't have any. Thank you, Dominique.
You're welcome. No problem.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Amberman, your mic is open.
Thank you very much. And I know that we would want to speed this up, but I think this is an important conversation. And I think that this body has a responsibility with our not only the public, but the communities that we serve. And I know that, you know, we have gone through this quite a lot, but number one, and I'm gonna, you know, go back with a couple of questions. I wanted to find out if you can please tell me if there is any demographic representation of Latinos in the you know, citizens review panel. And then the other question, you know, having not only been, you know, part of that body in the past, but also knowing how other cities function. When people discuss having investigative powers, people think that the investigation is done by the members of the review panel itself. But in reality, what they do is that those bodies have resources and they hire their own investigators. So, and given the fact that the structure in ours is not really yet defined, what I wanted to ask, what is going to be the plans to, perhaps if they don't have powers right now, what are the plans to have resources so that investigative powers, not powers, but actually investigative resources can be given so that we could report that in the light of public review would seem more neutral rather than just coming from the police department. Because I feel that you know, people in the community sometimes feel that it is biased, it is tilted towards one side, and I think just for the benefit of everybody, I think it is helpful when we present that there are you know, other investigators other than just the police department investigate its own. So you can explain how that could happen. And then I know that even though we may not have subpoena powers, when many decades ago, when I used to be a member of that body, I know that when we requested that we wanted to have somebody, come and speak before us. Actually, it happened. So it was not called subpoena, but we asked, can we have this person come before us? And it happened. So can you speak on that?
So, so your first question was related to the makeup of the board. Currently, there are 2 African Americans, 3 Caucasian. That there are 2 vacancies on the board. We had, I'm going to say Pacific Islander previously, but he was not reappointed. There was a period of time where City Council was not having any closed session meetings, so they were not really reappointing people or appointing people to boards. So, so we have 2 vacancies, and I'm hoping that they'll be filled soon, but I don't think they're going to be filled. My guess is that they won't be filled until we provide demographic information to the City Council so that they can then make a determination on how they're going to fill those slots and whether or not they're going to add slots. As far as plans to provide resources for investigations, my understanding is that that is not what they are currently anticipating doing. If it carries out the way that they discussed at the retreat, they would not be adding resources to the IRP to expand any investigative responsibility. So that is my understanding. Did you have another question in there, Beatrice?
Commissioner Amberman, did you have a third question?
No, I don't think I understood whether, there were Latinos. I know that the Pacific Islander I heard, but right now it is not. All right, thank you so much.
Right.
And another thing, I just wanted to say that, yes, I agree with Rod that unfortunately the General Assembly not only did not made it clear, but actually in the way that this came out, basically it's telling people, telling localities and jurisdictions, you don't even need to have one. So there is a lot of work to be done in that respect.
Beatrice, if I can just add, if you have members of your community who have an interest in serving on the IRP, I would encourage them to fill out a talent bank application because it may very well be that City Council will be looking to fill slots. And if someone has submitted an application with an interest and they self-disclose their demographic, because there's nowhere on that form for you to check race or ethnicity, but there is an open-ended question at the end. Tell us more about yourself, why you'd be a good fit. I would represent an underrepresented community. I would bring a perspective that's missing, something like that. That could be very helpful. The one caveat I have is don't bother having anybody who is currently a police officer apply, because the state law prohibits current police officers from serving. And if it's a former law enforcement officer, they need to understand that there's one slot for that person, for such a person, and that it's a non-voting position. So none of the voting members of a citizen review board can have any real-world experience in actually being a police officer. Those people are forbidden from being voting members, but we could have one who would be a non-voting to provide that perspective. And not just Beatrice, any of y'all, if any of you in your communities know of people who would be willing or eager to serve on the IRP or on any board or commission, have them fill out that talent bank. Because if council chooses to expand the membership, they're going to be looking for people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you have anything more, Commissioner Amberman?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Amberman. Thank you, Rod and Regina. And I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Stanley. Commissioner Stanley, your mic is open.
Yes, I really appreciate the seriousness that we're taking in the conversation, and Rod, your input, Regina. I feel like it is a very serious issue that has human rights implications. And we have been in concert with the community for a long time now, as they've tried to trying to be, and they have been in partnership with our police department to be helpful partners in productive, constructive change for building trust and transparency in the community. And that's the whole purpose of the IRP. So because that is its mission, is to make sure that, you know, human rights are protected and that we are standing by to be loyal to both a exemplar police department as well as a community that wants to be in partnership to keep the community safe. I think that it's critical that we make sure that the clarity that I asked for earlier on about the Human Rights Commission has not done enough work and enough due diligence on this issue to have made a recommendation, which, and Regina, thank you for making sure that that's how it went in. There was no formal vote on any recommendation that this Human Rights Commission agreed on. We didn't have any homework done. We didn't have a vote taken. We didn't have all the information. So I don't want to go on record saying that we recommended no investigative powers, no subpoena power. That's what now is the case. And I feel like that is damaging to building trust and the best police department and community relations that we can have. So I just want that clearly defined on, you know, so that, you know, because I feel like we do need more collective stakeholders in the community working through this issue together so that we can build trust, transparency, and the best practices. There are best practices out there. We don't always have to reinvent the wheel. That's what the community, this community table, has thought that they were in relationship with. They thought we were doing it together. And this looks like council just, you know, kind of veered off, made a decision, and now there's been no sort of collective investment. And I feel like that will do damage to the police. That really concerns me about the police. So that's why, from an integrity standpoint, I want to lift that we get clarity on that. I'm sorry that the community table didn't get recognition for their recommendations. They went in with the African American leadership table, but both bodies should have been lifted. But I want to make sure HRC doesn't go on there with that recommendation, because that is not accurate. So I don't know how we go back and make sure that that's clear. But you know, my suggestion is that we would weigh in saying we want the best possible outcome as far as formation of the IRP as it moves forward, whether that's slow or fast, but that we weigh in on human rights for all aspects, our exemplar police department as well as our community. So, Chair, I'd like a recommendation for how I make sure that clarity is there. But I'm really adamant about it.
May I answer that?
Sure.
Teresa, I don't think that we can. You're asking this body to declare that we didn't say that, and in reality, everybody was given an opportunity. We were asked by Councilman Bellucci to give us input. He thought that on that following Monday, we would have, he would have to have this discussion, and he wanted us, and I see you, Beatrice, he wanted us to have that, the input from us. Everybody that gave us anything, Ginger and I, we couldn't get together. It was COVID. We had not done virtual meetings yet. And what I think we had not, but we couldn't get one together in time. But everybody that submitted anything, your exact words with your name were taken forward to I see someone shaking their head. We'll get to you, Beatrice. To our knowledge, everybody's name was taken forward. We originally took off the name because we didn't have your permissions. Then I got a call and said, I want to be identified. We identified everyone, and your comment went forward as you gave it. Ginger, who keeps excellent records, thank you, Ginger, Has everyone's email that we received, it went forward to Councilman Bellucci. It was copied to Rod Ingram. It was copied to Regina because of her position with IRP. So everything that you said, and you're right, we did not have a formal vote, just as council has not had a formal vote. We have not had a formal vote, but I think for today, I don't know that we can, do you feel that we have enough information? You just said, Teresa, that we have not done our homework. If we haven't done our homework, how can we support one or the other with a vote?
I'm saying we make no recommendation, but that we're not recommending that the best practice would be no investigation subpoena. I'm having a problem with that. I would rather have us be neutral and a body that's, invested with the community and find the best results. And maybe I am the only human rights commissioner that feels like there should be caution around this. And if I do, I'll be, I guess, voted down. But I think if there's any concern, I just think it wasn't a recommendation by this body. It was input from this body from different members. And there was at least my input was that we do be cautious. We do use best practices. We don't recommend against something that we don't have enough information about. So I'm just, from a place of integrity, I'm really having trouble with this.
Beatrice? Dominique, your mic's not on.
I'm sorry. I see Rod has a comment or a response for Teresa. I'm sorry.
He looks confused.
Well, okay, I'll keep this brief, and then we need to go to Beatrice because she's been trying to speak for a while. I pulled up the PowerPoint that I believe Regina gave to the council sometime after September 18th. And the slide for the HRC says, selection of Human Rights Commission suggestions for change, provide an HRC commissioner a seat on this panel, clarify the application request form for an IRP review to add more specificity such as codes infraction, review deadlines for filing a complaint, review the relationship between the internal affairs investigation report and the IRP's review. And the only reason I'm mentioning this is there's no bullet point that says the HRC voted against this or weighed in on subpoena powers or something like that. I didn't see any of that mentioned. The only thing I saw on the slides is what I just read to y'all.
Well, Rod, but I will say though that the information that was provided to me about the HRC, it did have put that in the presentations that they did recommend, no investigation and no subpoena.
Okay.
So that it was
right.
that, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rod and Regina, and thank you, Commissioner Stanley. Commissioner Ammerman, I saw your real hand up. Your mic is open. Oh, Commissioner Ammerman, did we lose you? Commissioner Ammerman, can you hear me?
If you have the ability to press this.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. Yes, and for the remarks, but going back, and maybe this is just rehashing a little bit, but for clarification purposes, it is true that we did not give a recommendation and we did not take a vote on our recommendation, but we were asked to provide input, and we did. And the way you saw me shaking my hand is because I also keep records, because I'm very careful on anything I put in writing. And so I kept the letter that I sent forward with the recommendations, and they were not passed along to Councilman Michael Bellucci verbatim. They were edited. And when they edited what some of us put forth, then that is when the issue of not being satisfied with the fact that when you take the time to work and provide a detailed, group of suggestions, and then just some of them are selected, then that is where we have to just clarify that not the entirety of what we provided was conveyed or passed forward. And that is all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Amberman. Okay, Commissioner Stanley, did you have more to say? I see your virtual hand is still up. Oh, your mic is open.
I don't know what else to say.
Okay, all right, thank you. Commissioner Taylor, your virtual hand is up, your mic is open.
Yes, I have a question. I've been taking notes here, and one of the things is the RP is just going to review what the IA sent over. That's one question. And the other question is, on that panel, who guides them through the review of the information that has been forwarded by the police department?
So the IRP receives the complete investigative file.
Mm-hmm.
So they are tasked with reviewing that information. They can then ask questions of the police department, and they ask questions of the complainant. The complainant brings with them whomever they feel they need to bring with them to help answer questions. Maybe it was someone who was there, a witness, or whatever. So the IRP asks questions of both sides, both parties. The police attorney is there, as is Rod. They're both there so that if the IRP has any legal types of questions, they can confer with them. So so that is really how
it works.
It works, yes.
Okay, if they request any kind of other information, documents, or like Amber said that they had no problem in getting that from the police department.
They've not, as far as I'm aware of, we have not run into any problems getting information for the IRP if they have requested anything. The IRP, the police department usually is, forthcoming to give the IRP whatever they need. We typically have not, now there may be instances where the actual officer who is involved may not be there, but we will definitely have representation from the police department at each and every hearing to answer questions.
Okay,
and related to,
go ahead.
Related to that, I apologize for interrupting.
No, go ahead, Rob.
At our last IRP hearing, we had a matter where the citizen who complained said, if the IRP members could just see the body cam, then I think they'd understand where I'm coming from, what my perspective is. So we made certain that when police turned over that IA file, that it included the entire, it was like 3 hours of body cam video, first 20 minutes for the most important. But at any rate, we gave all of that to every IRP member, and it was crystal clear from the questions that they were asking that they had carefully viewed that video and were considering it when they were listening to the complainant, when they were listening to the complainant's witnesses. And one other thing I'll add, the complainant and her or his witnesses will present their perspective. Someone from IA will talk about the IA investigation, but then the chair always goes back to the complainant. And while we don't have the complainant directly questioning police, if the complainant has a question based on what police just said, I don't understand X, Y, Z, then the practice has been that the chair of the IRP will then go to police and say, okay, police, you heard that. Tell us about X, Y, and Z. So there is a back and forth.
Okay, and the other thing is, but it's no resident expert to help them, guide them through the review of the information they have received.
Not unless they bring one.
I'm talking about the IRP committee.
The IRP committee, I am not a resident expert, but I am very familiar with the policies and procedures of the IRP. So if they ask me, what are our options? How can we address this? I read to them the pertinent part from the policy, and then they make their decision.
But yet, but what I'm saying is when they get the information and start reviewing, you're not there. You only there doing the hearing, right?
You're right. When they get their packages in advance of the hearing, they are viewing that stuff in the privacy of their own home. But there have been occasions when we get to the meeting, we get into deliberations, and somebody will say, "Hey, I didn't understand this part," and we get that person an answer. Oftentimes, other IRP members will say, "Oh, I understood it. It meant this or that." But if there's something I can help with, I will. But I'm there as a resource. I keep my mouth shut unless questions are asked of me.
Yeah, that's doing the hearing, not why they're reviewing the material before the
Right.
hearing.
Yeah,
Right.
I hear you. I hear the point you're making. Yes.
That's the point I'm making is before the hearing, who is guiding them through the stuff that has been presented to them?
I think their only guide is they've got this complainant form where the complainant has listed all the reasons why she thinks she was mistreated. So they've got that. That is the focus. Then they look at the IA report, keeping in mind what the citizen's perspective is.
Good. I understand now what the process is. Thank you, Rod. That was excellent. Thank you, Regina. Y'all have been very helpful. I know how we can resolve this now.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Taylor. And don't forget to lower your virtual
Let me
hand
lower my hand,
once you're
shut my
done.
mouth, and let us move on.
Okay, I have a virtual hand by Vice Chair Jenkott. Vice Chair Jenkott, your mic is open.
Thank you, Dominique. When we were asked for input, it was back in July. I'm looking at all of the emails that I have the copies of. If it would be helpful, would anyone want a copy of all of the emails that were submitted? Only 9 commissioners submitted any input for this. I mean, I'm happy to send that packet to you all so you can see clearly, to know that you weren't misrepresented and that your ideas were moved forward. Especially Teresa, you heard from Rod Ingram that all of your ideas about the application, you were very strong on that point at that time. And Beatrice, you were very strong at that time about the diversity on the board. And I'm happy to send those comments from the 9 people forward. If anybody wants them, you just let me know.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Jenkott. Okay, I don't see any other virtual hands.
I actually had
Commissioner
copies and I
Hammer?
just see, the difference. Yeah, I just said, I don't need them because I have the copies, but I see the difference between what I submitted and what was included on the final letter that went out. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Amberman. And I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Stanley. Commissioner Stanley, your mic is open.
Thank you, Commissioner Jenkott. I appreciate that. Once again, and Regina, I so appreciate the clarity that you and Rod are giving us, because I know that this is important work for our community. And so as that input was being asked for, we were trying to offer, what we could offer at that point. The point I was just trying to make is that, and Regina, you were very forthright about that. The understanding was that was the collective input, that we were giving. And I just don't know that that's a wise thing for the Human Rights Commission to, I didn't understand it that way, and I was in the middle of the process. So since I was in the middle of the process and very invested with many, many community members in the process, I just want to make sure that, that we're walking in a direction of good progress. And so, I know that we can resolve and move forward, but I just have a problem with that collective. We made suggestions and input, but I did not think a recommendation on that particular fact, which I think is pretty important.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Stanley. Okay, I don't see any other virtual hands, but I want to check with our commissioners who are on the phone. Commissioner Zoberman, did you have a comment?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Anderson, did you have anything to add to the discussion? Commissioner Anderson, did we lose you? Okay, I think we may have. So I'm not seeing any other virtual hands up on the discussion, so I turn the meeting back to you, Chair Neer Strickland.
Thank you. Carla, I thought I saw your hand up. Did you take it down? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other comments? We have now kind of overrun our agenda, and we'll do the best we can to get through some stuff. Meantime, welcome Captain Wichenthal. Everybody congratulating Bruce on his promotion, and thank you for attending. Anything else on that? We're good for now, right? We're going to sit and listen and watch. All right. What I have, I want to get this done because it does require a vote. I've spoken to many of you about our virtual meetings, and I don't see anything in the near future where we won't be able to have them. But I've asked our attorney about can they be continued? Should we want to, especially some of our committee meetings, because I think it's we're doing a lot better with our committee meetings, not having to run across town and find a place to meet, and it's extremely helpful for our liaison. So what I'm asking is that we write a letter to City Council, ask them to include into their legislative packet that the ability to hold virtual meetings as we wish to continue. And Rod maybe can help me with that motion.
This is in line with our prior discussion. The one little nuance I have is I kind of thought this would be part of the HRC's proposal for the legislative package. So when we send the item asking for continued step funding and for other things, that this would be part of it. But perfectly fine for y'all to vote on. This is going to be one of the items that we include in our legislative package ask later this summer.
So we can just go ahead and include it in the packet.
You can give staff that direction, and Dominique and I will write up something, and well before the deadline to get this information to the city's legislative liaison, our new one. Her name is Deborah Bryan. Mr. Matthias has retired. We'll get that item to them on behalf of the HRC, probably have the HRC vote on the whole package, but this would definitely be part of it. And I think the HRC is not going to be alone in making this ask. So if we've got multiple boards making this request and each board has different council liaisons, well, goodness, if we've got 3 boards and we get 2 liaisons on each, well, we got 6, and that thing's going to end up in the package. So I think this is a good idea. My initial suggestion is that we seek this for advisory bodies, and advisory bodies include the HRC and Parks and Rec and Minority Business Council and almost all of the boards and commissions, except the ones that have the power to unilaterally alter your life. Like the Wetlands Board can tell you whether you may have a pool or not. The HRC doesn't tell you whether you can have a pool. We might make a recommendation to the City Council, but it's somebody else who makes the final call. So with respect to these boards like ours that are purely advisory in nature, what's the harm in letting us continue to meet virtually when it's helpful for people's health, it's helpful for the environment, it allows greater engagement because y'all aren't having to drive from one part of Virginia Beach to the other part. I could go on and on and on about the wonders of virtual meetings. So I can assure you I will strongly advocate for it if y'all give me that direction, and it sounds like that's what I'm hearing.
Okay, do we want to vote on this? Do we have consensus?
Does anyone have any opposition or any discussion? I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Cubine. Commissioner Cubine, your mic is open.
Yes, I would like to know if this suggestion is indefinitely or until we are sure that it's okay to go out when the pandemic.
So right now, we have a law that goes into 2022 that says so long as the governor has declared a state of emergency, we can continue to meet virtually. Our hope is that at some point in the future, the pandemic will wane and we'll be able to return to some normalcy, and that at some point in the future, the governor will say the state of emergency is over. The moment he says that, our ability under current law to have all virtual meetings disappears. So this suggestion would be General Assembly, change the law in January so that advisory committees can continue to meet virtually, making arrangements so the public can participate like we've always done, but allow them to do that even if the governor hasn't declared a state of emergency.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm, for one, I'm not in favor. But.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Cubine. Okay. Oh, any other discussion on this recommendation? Let me check with our commissioners that are on the phone. Commissioner Zoberman?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ammerman, are you back with us?
Zakia, this is her. I'm here.
Hi. Did you have any discussion on the recommendation to propose this legislative item to City Council to then go to General Assembly about continuing the virtual meetings?
I do have that question. I'm wondering if we were discussing possibly a flex option where we could offer the virtual opportunity but still have certain members that wanted to meet in person to do so. Is that an option on the table?
That's my intent.
Okay. Yeah.
I can tell you what we have right now, because the HRC has adopted the virtual participation by a single member policy that Beatrice has taken advantage of, and some of our other commissioners have taken advantage of. That allows individual members to participate virtually so long as we have a quorum assembled in a room. So if we had a quorum of the HRC assembled in a room, then if we had 2 or 3 members who needed to participate remotely, they could do so. If they're doing it for a health reason, there's no limit. If they're doing it for another reason, there's a limit of 3 times per year. And we worked with B when B was sent to represent our country and was out of the state, out of the country. We worked with her to facilitate her participation in 3 of those meetings, and we can continue to do that. I think the proposal would just give us an additional option, but I take back what I said before. I'm hearing differences of opinion. So I wonder if maybe a way forward would be to a vote to request that staff draft a legislative agenda item that would allow HRC to meet fully virtually or partially virtually post-pandemic. And it would kind of be a 2-step thing. Y'all could vote to give staff the direction to draft the thing, and then we draft the thing. And then just like we always do when we give you legislative agenda items, we send them to you in advance, you get to look at them, and then at a subsequent meeting, you'll vote it up or down.
Okay. Yeah, my opinion is that the flexibility of in-person and or virtual also opens up access to different kinds of people or different demographics that may want to join a board or commission. This is my opinion in general, not just the HRC, but I think having that flexibility opens up the accessibility for anyone that is looking to join a board or commission. It opens up that opportunity for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Okay, I see real hand up by Commissioner Amberman. Your mic is open.
Thank you. And I appreciate the explanation that Rod, provided us, because I think what we are doing is just amplifying the ways we can function. And that doesn't preclude that we meet in person. Actually, at every meeting, there could be a decision at some point that, we want to say, well, let's get together and, we feel safe. So it could be a decision, and yet it gives us the flexibility that if at a certain month, say in December, when there are holidays and so forth, people, are able to meet virtually rather than personally. I think that gives us an opportunity to actually meet on months where holidays may prevent a quorum and so forth. So I would like us to move forward on that, and I appreciate the opportunity to, put my 2 cents in. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Amberman. I don't see any other virtual hands up, so I'll turn the meeting back to you, Chair Neer Strickland.
Yes, I just wanted to say to Tommy, this doesn't mean that we would always meet virtually. It would just give us the option if we wanted to. We could meet all the time in person, should we want to. And hopefully it would allow us, people who can't make the meeting, to meet virtually. So it's not like we're stuck in the little grid for the rest of our lives. But by all those comments, I would guess that we would want staff, please, to go ahead and put that in writing, and we'll vote on it in the package. Is that correct?
I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Cubine. Commissioner Cubine, your mic is open.
Yes, I would just like to say that I understand better that there is flexibility, and that's fine with me.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cubine. Okay, so with that, we just lost Commissioner. Oh, here she is back. Okay. With that, I see a virtual hand up by Commissioner Burnsworth. Commissioner Burnsworth, your mic is open.
I would just like to make a motion that we ask staff to draft that possible legislative item that deal with the opportunity for virtual meetings.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Burnsworth. Does anyone want to second that motion? I see a red hand up by Commissioner Amberman. Commissioner Amberman, your mic is open.
I second the motion.
Okay, so any discussion on the matter? Any opposition? Okay, just for clarification, Commissioner Burnsworth, your motion and the motion on the table is for staff to go ahead and draft a letter requesting that legislature considers extending the virtual meeting option for advisory boards. Is that correct, Commissioner Burnsworth?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So with that, I'm going to do a roll call vote for the HRC to instruct staff to draft a letter stating that they would like to the legislation to consider the virtual option being extended beyond the pandemic. So starting with Commissioner White, your vote?
No.
Thank you. Commissioner Amberman, your vote? Oh, Commissioner Amberman, your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Heseltine, your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson, your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Chair Jencock?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Gunn?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Burnsworth?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Rivera?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you. And Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you. Chair Nair Strickland?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Cubine?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Zoberman?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. And that is. Oh, didn't Commissioner Khaled? Okay, we lost Commissioner Khaled. Okay.
14-1.
Yes, 14-1. Yep. Okay, so for a vote of 14-1, it has been approved that staff will draft a letter to legislation stating that they would like to legislation to consider extending the virtual meeting option beyond the pandemic.
Great, thank you. The other thing that we have to vote on is, and I'm skipping it down to awards because it's getting late. The awards committee met and we decided that we can't give awards in person. I can't have award ceremony again this year. It's just too difficult to plan ahead. So we don't want to not have any awards. We're already a year behind. So I think the vote that we need is to just agree that since we're all stars of videos now, that we can do this virtually. And just a vote for that is what I'm entertaining.
Okay.
Please, a motion to.
Would anyone like to entertain a motion to approve that this year's award ceremony be held virtually? I see a virtual hand up by Vice Chair Gencott. Vice Chair Gencott, your mic is open.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with awards ceremony virtually. And that's
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Gencott. Would anyone like to second the motion to have a virtual award ceremony this year? I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Heseltine. Commissioner Heseltine, your mic is open.
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, is there any discussion on the motion on the table, which is to hold this year's award ceremony virtually? Please raise your virtual hand. I have a virtual hand by Commissioner Burnsworth. Commissioner Burnsworth, your mic is open.
I just want to clarify that when we say that, we don't mean that we are necessarily going to do the same that we did last year. And the reason I say that is I had the opportunity to attend the Urban League Awards presentation that was done totally differently, and it truly was beautifully done and recognized very deserving award recipients in a honorable virtual way. And I think that we could do that. So if we're saying we're going to do the same we did last year, I will vote no. If we say we're looking at different options, I will vote yes.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Burnsworth. Commissioner Rivera, you have your hand is up. Your mic is open.
My concern was something similar to what George and Joe mentioned as to how this would be packaged, this awards presentation. And if Joe has experience with something that came off well, I would really love to hear more of how they went about doing it so that perhaps we can take some ideas and implement them.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rivera. I have a virtual hand up by Vice Chair Gencott. Vice Chair Gencott, your mic is open.
Thanks. Yeah, this is great input. I would invite both of you to attend the virtual meeting for the awards committee as we go the next step. You'll get an email about that. And if you cannot make it, simply send some info or call Sylvia or me or David Calliot about, the thoughts and ideas. So those are great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Commissioner Burnsworth, I see your virtual hand is up. Your mic is open.
If I still have a link to the video of the Urban League awards ceremony, I'll send it to Dominique so she can distribute it.
Great.
It was nicely done, and I know who did it. But I'll send it to Dominique if I can find it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Burnsworth. Okay, did anyone have any other discussion on the motion that is on the table, which is to hold the award ceremony this year virtually? Let me check with our commissioners on the phone. Commissioner Zilberman?
Nope.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
no discussion, but just letting you know that that link is on the Urban League of Hampton Road page, their Facebook page.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Commissioner Anderson. Okay, did anyone else have any other discussion on the motion that is currently on the table? Okay, with that, we'll do a virtual roll call for approval for the award ceremony this year to be held virtually. Commissioner White?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Amberman?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Heseltine?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Chair Jenkott?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Gunn?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Burnsworth?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Rivera?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Taylor? Commissioner Taylor?
Yeah.
Is your vote for holding the award ceremony
Excellent.
virtually? Commissioner Taylor, is that your vote? Okay.
Okay, dear.
Chair Narragansett?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Cubine?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Zolberman?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Thank you.
I missed my roll call.
It was a vote for the motion on the table, which is to approve to hold the award ceremony this year virtually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. With that, a vote of 15-0 has been approved to hold this year's awards ceremony virtually.
Great, thank you. And anybody that wants to be on the awards committee, we welcome all of your ideas and talents, and we'll get it together. I believe the nomination form, Dominique, it's been sent out, right?
Yes, it's been sent out. I put a flyer on the Facebook page, and I put the actual application on the HRC webpage. So the flyer instructs them to go to the webpage to get the application.
And the deadline for
The deadline is March 31st.
Everybody get busy. Okay, moving on. We have almost 15 minutes. I'm trying to, who feels that they really need to give their report, and we'll go by urgency of what you feel. Otherwise, we're going to have to either go over or continue on next month with our reports. I see a virtual hand. I see a real hand.
A real hand of my Commissioner Amberman. Commissioner Amberman, your mic is open.
And I'm sorry about this. No, I don't need to give a report. I just wanted to say I'm going to send mine via email. And on the report on COVID, I'm just going to include a whole list of all the bills that were passed at the General Assembly that are going to the governor's desk. And so I don't know if I should do them in two different documents or in one, but it's going to be two reports just so that the commission can get the opportunity to see the myriad of laws that may be, changing in Virginia. That's going to be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Amberman. Did anyone else have any reports to put out? Okay, I have a virtual hand up by Vice Chair Jenkott. I'm assuming this might be about the COVID.
No, it's not. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
I will also send an email, as Beatrice is, with all of the quality bills that passed this session that are on the governor's desk now. So we had some great progress and victories. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Jenkott. I have a virtual hand up by Commissioner Taylor. Commissioner Taylor, your mic is open.
Yes, I think one of the most important, one of the bills that is important that's really going to impact the Virginia Beach is the House. I think it's the House bill that changes from a hybrid at-large system to a district system. So that's a big change. And so you got to be very cognizant of that. It most likely is going to go in effect in 2022. And so that's going to impact us really well. It's some pushback on it on both sides, on some for it, some against it. You got to really do your homework. It's sitting on the governor's desk. A lot of people have asked the governor to veto it because they wanted to go to a referendum and let the people decide instead of our state legislator. They called that bill the Virginia Beach Bill, and they got one called the Chesapeake Bill. And so those two bills, one is to change Chesapeake election to November, and change us to a district. 7 district and 4 at large, including the mayor.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Commissioner Ammerman, did you have a response to that? Your mic is open.
No, not a response, but before we end, and I just wanted to have the opportunity to thank the City Council appointing me again to the Virginia Beach Human Rights Commission, and I wanted that to be on record. And much appreciation. I love the city, and I can't wait to continue working.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Ammerman. Okay, I have a virtual handout by Commissioner Stanley. Commissioner Stanley, your mic is open.
Yes, congratulations, Commissioner Amberlin. And thank you, Commissioner Taylor, for mentioning that. I think we need some education around that. So I don't know if we can kind of officially ask for that as a Human Rights Commission. I think it's important for us to know all the implications about voting and work systems. So I don't know, Commissioner Chair, if you could maybe see if we could get more information on that as we walk. I also, I know that Joe has already left, but I read the work plan and just wanted to make the correction for the liaisoning for the Hampton Roads Legislative Collaborative. It's collaborative table and not collaboration. So wanting to make sure we had the official name on that. And lots of legislation got passed, and want to thank all the commissioners that were a part of, everything from the STEP funding, abolition of death penalty, a lot of different things that people were, voting access, but especially the ones that we officially were representative for the city council that we got approved. The Seeds of Hope mental health project for the season for nonviolence is ongoing, and I know Francis and Tommy were waiting for information about the rock part of the mental health wellness. It's what's called Seeds of Hope mental health wellness project. It encompasses lots, but the young people, Morgan had to go, so she couldn't make this report. She had a soccer game, but they're very excited. And one of the components is inspirational rocks. So the rocks are in, and I will send the flyers, Francis and Tommy, because I know you're planning to paint with your grandchildren, and just wanted to lift Commissioner Stevens and his business at the oceanfront for being an integral partner in this effort to normalize mental health conversations. The young people are getting all kinds of education, and I want to make sure that the human rights commissioners are aware of those NAMI activities too. So Dominique, I'll make sure that I get all that information to you so that we can be engaged in this project with our young people, because mental health has been exacerbated as an issue during COVID.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Stanley. Okay, did anyone else have anything urgent to report? Commissioner Stanley, your mic is open again.
Just one more, the liaisoning to the police community, police relations table. That's been, the meeting is following this one 7 to 8, and the minutes went out, so hopefully everybody got those and are informed. That's the liaison report for that committee.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Stanley. Anyone else have any? I see a virtual handout by Commissioner Cubine. Commissioner Cubine, your mic is open.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to, today, when I had seen on the agenda about the legislative package for 2020, I thought that meant that we were come prepared to make recommendations on what we wanted to recommend to the city council. And so I would like to clarify what the date is that we need to get those recommendations in this year, Because I think anyway, I'd like to know what is the date that we need to be getting those recommendations into the city. Well, bring them to the Human Rights Commission first.
I don't believe the date has been set yet. As I mentioned before, we have someone new in the position of legislative liaison. But based on past experience, if the council's going to vote on this in the fall, then typically the city manager goes to his department heads in the summer and says, departments, tell me what you need and go to your boards. So I would anticipate a vote by the HRC maybe in August. But once I actually have the new timeline as established by our new legislative liaison, I'll send it to Dominique so she can share it with everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Hubine. Okay, did anyone else have anything to report?
Just me. If everyone is finished, we have 9 minutes. Quickly, a couple of you have called and asked about the IDEA Commission. I really don't know anything about it, except that I think there's the mayor has created a IDEA Commission, and there will also be a diversity director, I think, or at least that's been suggested. I don't know if anybody knows anything more than that, but that's all I know. And Rod looks like that's all he knows. And okay, the other thing that came up was quickly facial recognition, a camera at the ocean front. There was an article in the newspaper, and I don't think there's really anything that we can do other than just wait and see what happens after the chief does his investigation. But in case you haven't seen that, it's you can probably read it online on the pilot. And I see a hand up by Beatrice.
Yeah. Commissioner Ammerman, your mic is open.
No, I just wanted to congratulate our mayor, because by creating the new board, the mayor's idea, actually he went before the new law will be created by the governor. As I'm saying, this is a test. Actually, there's going to be a law that is instructing localities to create a diversity committee. And so we are actually ahead of the game by the mayor actually forward and acting on it. So congratulations to our city again. Leaders, as always.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ammerman. Okay, I'm not seeing any more virtual hands on any committee reports.
No, and my apologies for running over, but I think it was an important discussion that everybody wanted to express themselves, and it was good that we did it together instead of just me on the phone. I have ear burn from talking on the phone. I appreciate everyone contacting me and giving me input. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting if there's nothing else.
And just to let you know, no citizen remarks.
Oh, no, he didn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
our citizen got what he was seeking. So he has no need to speak with us anymore.
Okay.
Change is coming.
Okay.
Look forward to the young guys. All right. All right. Thank you guys so much. Be safe.
Thank
All
you.
right. Everyone have a good night.
Good night.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.